Hello, good morning, everybody. Hopefully we can get started and just trying to figure this all out. This is interesting. Okay. Okay, where did my document go? All right, people, how's it going? Hey guys, it's Brian back at you with my very first live Q&A streaming on YouTube. I don't know how this is gonna go. I have plenty of content to cover. I know that I've been MIA for a while now, with the exception of my video last week. And that's because there's just been so much happening on the work side that it really does take up a lot of my time. There's a lot of travel involved, a lot of meetings, and just making sure I keep the other priorities of my life up and ready to go. So that means working out, hanging out with friends, family, and just making time for them and all of that as well. So it's been insane, but I'm getting lots of feedback. I really want to use this as a tool to knock out a whole bunch of questions. So let's give this a shot. Bear with me here. All right. So how are you guys all doing? Let's see. Okay, so so what I did was I actually went through a lot of the submit your questions. We'll answer some of those. We'll also go through some questions I've been getting through LinkedIn from a lot of you guys. Actually, a lot of you have reached out to me recently with regards to my videos on quality assurance and regulatory affairs. So I'll answer some of those questions. There's a real common theme there, so hopefully I can tackle that with one topic. And then we'll go through some YouTube questions and comments as well. Okay. If you guys have any questions, you know how to reach me. Go to my website, 101mentoring.com. You can submit your questions that way. It's free advice. You can also go to my products and services page where we can actually work together in a one-on-one session, and I have various topics for you guys. Hey, Percy Wren has joined us. Wow, thanks. And Percy is like the one person watching right now. Thanks for your comment, and thanks for dropping by. So we're going to tackle some of these questions, unless Percy, you have any questions. But if you guys want to let me know, just hit me up, send me a comment here, and we'll tackle them. Okay, so the first question I got was fairly recently, and this person asks, how come companies lately don't want to give you feedback anymore after an interview, or if you don't get the job? And when you request feedback, the answer is, I'm not going to give it to you. Or they say, don't ask, or they say they aren't allowed to give it to you. This could be company policy. Here's my take on it. I think it's really important to know that it doesn't do any good. I've had phone calls where people have reached out to me after an interview and tried to interrogate you and ask you, well, I am qualified. I'm probably the best candidate. Why didn't you hire me? And then they start spewing all the credentials that they have on their resume. What is that trying to solve? You guys tell me. I don't see how it's going to end well here. Typically, the hiring manager has a pretty good reason why they can't hire you, or they don't want to hire you. Typically, that means there's a candidate that is actually better than you, believe it or not. Yes, there are candidates out there with more experience, with more gusto, with better communication skills. It's quite possible. The other thing too is maybe there's a budget issue. Maybe the position has changed. Maybe the title has changed. Maybe the scope of work has changed due to the budget restrictions, or maybe the department is undergoing some sort of shift and it needs to bring in someone more skilled than what they're currently posting. And they're currently in discussions internally about how to address that. So that's something to keep in mind, right? That what I'm trying to say is that there are variables that are outside your control that has nothing to do with your resume or your credentials or your experience, but has resulted in you not getting the job. So that's something to keep in mind. But think about the conversation when you go back for feedback. the vast majority of people aren't there to objectively take in the feedback. They're there to criticize the hiring manager and confront them and say, why didn't you hire me? Let's be real. That is the situation. I know a lot of you may be thinking, no, I'm genuine. I really want to know more. I challenge you on that. I think once you get emotions involved, it's going to be pretty easy for you to just change the tone of the conversation. And it's really going to be about why you didn't get the job. So at the onset, it is not a good dialogue. It is not good energy. It's not good mojo. And then you guys get into this back and forth situation. And at the same time, if there are variables that the company has to sort out internally that has nothing to do with you, they really can't speak to it. It's confidential proprietary information that they cannot share. So they wouldn't share that with you. So unfortunately, yes, you're not going to get the feedback you want. Even if you guys did get the feedback, you wouldn't even be listening for the most part. And it's going to be a really bad conversation. So overall, there are just so many reasons why you don't want to go through this situation of asking for feedback, or, why you could do, how you could do better next time. If you want that type of advice, you got to go to someone else that wasn't involved. Maybe go to a colleague, an ex-employer of yours, or have someone coach you or train you into this interviewing skill set, or how, to look over your resume or cover letter. You need a third-party person to do that for you. I know it's better to go to the specific hiring manager, at least on the surface, it sure feels that way, but there's just so many other things you have to keep in mind. And that's really why that conversation doesn't go well. So hopefully that helps provide some perspective. And at the same time, guys, just keep doing what you're doing. Learn to be better for yourself. Outside of getting that feedback from that specific company, you're going to get that position. You're going to land that interview that you've been gunning for. But don't let that discourage you. Don't let this situation discourage you. Let me see. So anyway, for the person that sent me this question, let me know what you think. If you have any other questions, you know how to reach out to me. All right. This person here, let's go to another question. And okay, so I'm going to read you their question here. Hello, I'm a junior in high school. I'm struggling with choosing the type of career I should take. That way I can choose what to study in college. I'm interested in helping people and having a good pay. I did have in mind of becoming a doctor, but I do not really like all the years of school that it takes. Yes, it is going to take a really, really long time. I basically want a job that leaves me good money and gets me somewhere where I'm respected. Please help. All right. So first feedback to you is, well, what do you want? Do you want to be a doctor, or are you just looking for something that gives you good money and where you're respected? It's funny. I've seen a lot of these types of questions, and the big one is that people want to be paid well and they want to be respected. Cool. Well, if you want to be paid well and you want to be respected, you have to provide value, and you have to be competent in your job, and you have to be a huge contributor in what you do. And probably in a field that is difficult, right? That a lot of other people can't do. If other people can't do it, you're not going to be paid more, and you're not going to be as well respected, right? Or as regarded. Sorry, respected isn't the right word, but at least valued, at least from a marketing or a job perspective. So I think a lot of people out of high school, or first few years in college, want to become a doctor or a lawyer because that makes the most sense, or a pharmacist, because they know that stuff gives you good money, or at least that's what they think. And at the same time, that's what the parents teach you, that's what your teachers teach you, and throughout your upbringing, these are real easy go-to jobs to know that you're going to have a good future, at least good pay. So it's a simple solve, and a lot of people just gravitate towards this type of job. But at the same time, it's not for everyone. So if you want to be a doctor, yes, you're going to have to invest a lot of time in school. If you don't want to do that, then obviously being a doctor isn't for you. You're obviously gunning towards something else. I don't know what that something else is, because I don't know you, and this is a fairly limited question. But I will challenge you in a couple ways. Number one is, What do you mean by good money? What's the dollar figure you have in mind? Realistically, right now, or at least let's say right out of college, what is good money to you? Is it $40,000? Is it $60,000? Is it $100,000? Is it $300,000? What is it? I really want to challenge you to define what good money means, because good money to you right now at the age of 25 is going to be very different from the age of 35. So you have to factor in what you think you'll actually make outside of college as soon as you graduate, and also what your earning potential is going to be as you progress in your career. What is good money to you? Excuse me. Okay, so that's number one. And if you don't know how to calculate that, a simple way to do that would be to actually look at where you're currently living. What is the cost of living there? How much is it going to cost you to pay for rent? How much is it going to cost you for transportation, whether that means taking public transit, or maybe you want to invest in a car? And then you want to factor in the good rule of thumbs in terms of financial advice, in terms of savings, retirement, and also just to live life, right? So you want to go out on the weekends, you want to hang out with your friends on the weekends. So that's going to cost some money as well. So factor all of that. Also factor in how much is it going to cost you to pay for student loans, or to save up for a house, because you obviously don't want to rent for the rest of your life, or maybe you do. I don't know, but these are the things you want to start factoring in. So go on Craigslist, look at how much it's going to cost to rent a place, look at how much it's going to cost to buy a place, look at what the typical wage is for the average, what's the average income in that area, and start factoring, okay, back calculate. What's going to be that comfortable number for you? If you know that your rent's going to cost you $1,000 a month, your car's going to cost you $500 a month, right? Then you're going to know that groceries are going to cost you $300 a month, and so on. You kind of have an understanding of how much you want to make. And that determines how much good money might mean to you. Rather than just a fluffy number in your head, I really want you to back calculate exactly what good money means to you as soon as you enter the workforce, and then also start looking at your earning potential moving forward. So that's number one. The other question is, what does it mean to be respected? Respect is a very interesting word. It could be maybe you're using this word in the sense of value. You want to be valued versus respected. I mean, someone can do a pretty average job, a minimum wage job, and be very, very well respected. Someone could work very, very hard in a job that might not be so perceived as prestigious. They could be delivering pizzas, for example, or driving a taxi. It doesn't matter. I'll still respect the guy because the person is working hard. They provide food for their family. They're making good decisions in life. They're saving for retirement. They're doing all the right things to support their future and their family's future. That's respect. Whereas someone could be a doctor and can be a complete douche, throw all their money around, waste it on partying, et cetera, and I have no respect for that person. So what does it mean to you to be respected? I'm assuming you're talking about that prestige level of job. Well, if you want that prestige, then you're definitely going to have to pay your dues, and that might mean getting more education, especially in the sense of going that doctor or lawyer route. But it could also mean just more experience in the working environment that you have, and then work your way up that corporate ladder so that you get that title. And with that title comes a lot more responsibilities, a lot more experience, leading a team. And then with that comes that prestige that you may be looking for. I mean, you could be a director, a VP, right, a CEO one day. You don't know, but in order to get there, you need to put your time. You got to pay your dues. And it's either going to come out of education or it's going to come out of experience. It's really up to you and really what is congruent with your mojo. So that's definitely something you'll want to consider. What does respect mean to you? Or what do you mean by prestige? Think about that. Let me know. If you are thinking about going to be a doctor, let's say after everything I said, you're still thinking, you know what, the doctor route might be the most easiest for you, have you talked to doctors? I really recommend that you try to find some time with a doctor and talk to them about what it's like to be a doctor. I know several friends of mine who are spouses of doctors, and they tell a very different story than what we are led to believe in terms of what a doctor's life might look like. And I do have, I have people in my family who are doctors as well. And the amount of hours, the commitment, the responsibilities, the just sheer amount of work and knowledge that you must maintain, it is insane. And again, it depends on the type of doctor you want to be, but it's not for everyone. And I really think and encourage you to reach out to a doctor or two and actually talk to them. I'm sure there are people in your family, there are people in your network that knows a doctor as a profession, and not just, patient doctor relationship, and actually talk to them about it. I highly recommend that you do that. Okay. Gosh. Let's see. There's more here. We've got another one that came in recently. This is around quality assurance or regulatory affairs. At least this person found me through that video. Hi, Brian. I just finished watching your quality assurance or regulatory affairs, which is better for career growth video, and found it helpful. Awesome. I am preparing for a regulatory analyst interview for an insurance company. Cool. And pretty nervous since I do not have any direct regulatory analyst experience. Interesting. Okay. I have both quality assurance and sales reporting experience within the insurance industry. The company I am interviewing for is also an insurance company. Do you have any tips on how to prepare for this role? I plan to continue my research on the company and figure out how to translate my current experience to this role. This interview will be my second and I believe final round, and is a 4-hour long interview. That's crazy. That is a long interview. You are going to be tired. So kudos to you for going through this, and best of luck. And then this person says, finally, any further suggestions or tips? Cool. All right. So let me just say that with regards to quality assurance, regulatory affairs, of course, my experience is more in the dietary supplement space, the food space, which is very different from your space. Seems like that is insurance. So keep that in mind as I talk this through. Now, it looks like you're obviously applying for a role that requires some sort of regulatory analyst experience, or at least that's what it seems like, but you don't have any. What's interesting to that, though, is that you mentioned that you're in your second round of interviews. So what does that mean? It means that the people that are interviewing you know that you don't have that experience. They know that you're weak in it, yet they still like you, right? Trust me, they've read your resume. I'm assuming they've read your cover letter. They've gone through the first interview with you. They know going in that this person that they're reading this resume about doesn't have that regulatory analyst experience, yet there's something they like about you. So I just want to keep that reality there in check, and hopefully that alleviates a little bit of the pressure for you, and realize that they know that. So number one is that they know you don't have that regulatory experience. Number two, based on that, is do not lie and pretend to have that experience. I like what you're doing here. You're saying you're doing more research. You want to kick up your regulatory knowledge a little bit in time. I don't know if you're going to get that far, depending on when your interview is, but you want to research the company some more. You really want to figure out how your current skill set can translate over in this new role. That's great, but do not lie. Do not fake as if you are don't fake that you think you know what you're going to do or say about regulatory analysis or analysts. You don't, and they're going to read through it so quickly and factor in the fact that they know you don't have the experience. So don't lie. That's rule number two. Hey, we've got Dark Dracula. How's it going? My day is going well. This is my very first live stream. I've got I've been going through a whole bunch of these questions. Hopefully you guys can tune in later, but how are you doing? Let me know. Thanks for dropping by, man. So the other thing too is you've got a 4-hour long interview. The best way for you to prepare is don't necessarily think about the right things to say. Instead, think about all the scenarios that you can possibly remember in your previous experience. Think of all that, think of all the scenarios, brainstorm that all, and then come in prepared with all the experiences in mind. And then you can speak to it during your interview. But I think a lot of people just get hung up and they don't know which experience to choose for the specific question. So if you've got experience around that, so essentially, I would recommend that you take some time, sit in front of the computer like this, record yourself, get your interview questions online, just Google them, and then start asking your questions to yourself and then answering it in front of the camera like this. Don't worry if you stumble upon the wording, but start thinking about the exact scenarios you want to go to. So if someone's saying, hey, when's the last time you did something, you learned something really, really complicated in a short amount of time, you should already have that scenario in your head right away. If someone asks you, when's the last time you didn't get along well with someone, boom, you should think of a scenario right away in your head. You can talk to it later, you can tweak the language, but it's so important that you know the exact scenario and the vivid details behind that immediately so that you can craft your response at a moment's notice at the interview. I think this is where a lot of people get hung up. Hey, Dark Dracula, thanks for coming by and subscribing. If you have any questions that you want me to answer in a future video or this one, let me know. Appreciate the subscribe and the like. Thanks for dropping by. Hopefully you get to learn something. If you want me to cover anything else, let me know. Let's see, what other tips for interviews? I think that's the big one. I think it's important that you rehearse. You're going to have to record yourself on camera if you really, really want to go crazy. And I think a lot of people do not do this, but they get very uncomfortable. I know I would be as well, but if you are really treating this role seriously, definitely record yourself, watch yourself, see how you're moving your head, using your hands, or maybe you're very, very stoic. That's also a really good read for you moving forward. So hopefully you found these tips helpful. All right. Gosh, where else do we go? Okay, another question. I've got them all prepped here. This is a longer one, so bear with me. This is a college junior transitioning to a different major. So this is a good question. And I like how, I like how detailed this question is. There's a lot of information here. I personally like that because that gives me the right context, and that way I can tailor my answers to the person specifically. Hi, Brian. I just recently found your channel by looking for insight on my current situation. To sum things up, I used to have a burning passion to be a physician. Hey, what do you know? Another doctor to be. I love sciences, anatomy, physiology, and medicine, and couldn't see myself doing anything else. I volunteered, did research, was part of executive councils for clubs, and even got clinical jobs. Awesome. It looks like you're doing all the right things. My GPA started out really poorly, but underwent big upward trends, and it seems like everything was unfolding well. Good. I am now a junior at a university, and I have more or less stumbled into depression and lack of interest for my school, major, and career path. What happened? You got to tell me what happened there. How did something happen that triggered you into depression? Was there, something that happened on the personal level, or was it something from an academic level? I think that's important to know. Or did it just happen on its own, even though you had all this positive momentum going your way? Throughout my college time, I was getting hints that perhaps healthcare wasn't for me. I didn't like generic charity work. I wasn't a huge research fan. I disdained the care aspect of healthcare, as I was more interested in the private, corporate, and financial side of medicine, i.e. making profits. I must sound like a materialistic moron, he says in brackets. I didn't really fit in the science crowd and always looked enviously at the finance students. I am also extremely unhappy at my college, hometown commuter college, and as I am a very social person who enjoys networking, suits, going out, and professional development rather than research labs and charities, which are key to medical school applications, I must say. Okay, I'm starting to get the tone here. In sum, my school is not the right fit, and I am really regretting not being proactive earlier. I recently found an all-consuming interest in finance, investments, and financial technologies. I am now reading books on the subject, attending seminars, etc. I will be 21 in February. Oh, you're a young guy. And I would love to transfer schools and move to finance and also computer science programs. But I am quite anxious about the whole concept of the older college student, as well as extending my tuition fees, as I would be graduating at 24, 25 now. I know for mental health sake that I need to transfer, but I am pondering about transferring to a good business school and taking on debt, or transferring to another more general college and risking a lack of enjoyment, connection, opportunities. Wow. Would you have any insight or on sudden career changes and the older college student staying in college to change majors? Sure, I do. But before I do, let me just read this here. Cool. Thanks, Dark Dracula, for the comment. Appreciate it. Come by anytime. All right. We've got a lot of discussion points here. So we've obviously got a kid here who is not enjoying the path to being a physician. They're getting run down by the science, the charity, the lab work, and that is exactly the type of experience you are typically expected to get if you are going down that physician route. I will tell you that I experienced that myself, so I know how that feels like, and I also experienced the idea of like, boy, this is not for me. When I went, I did a science major, as many of you guys know. I did co-op, so this is where you do like an intern type program. It's like a paid job for a semester. So you leave, you don't take any classes for a semester, and you work for a company for a semester or two and you get paid. That's when I realized, and so part of it, I did 2 terms of co-op. I did 1 term where I worked in a lab to get that lab experience. This is the typical conventional route for someone in the sciences. And then I did something outside of that, which was more in the company setting, in an office setting. And I did both. And when I remember that moment when I did the lab stuff and I realized this is not for me. I do not enjoy it. I mean, I learned a lot. I enjoyed working with the people. I liked the fact that I was learning so much, and it wasn't that I hated it or I was depressed from it, but I just knew it was not my cup of tea. And to see the career path that the other guys are going, I saw a lot of master's students, PhD students. I saw the professor. I'm like, okay, I see where that's going. It's really not my mojo. I don't have the same passion these guys do. And I really want to work in a different environment, a more office environment, business environment, and really get down to making money rather than staying in the academic field. So I feel you on that. I like how you are realizing this now. And I will say that if you're realizing this now, and just based on the tone of your email, you need to make the switch. So there's a couple ways you can do this. And here's my advice. Number 1 is you've got this passion for this social aspect. You say you like being social, you like going out, you like to wear suits, or you want to wear suits, you like this whole business investment type of vibe, right? And hey, there's nothing wrong with that. And I will say that I felt the same way too. I felt like, hey, I am more extroverted, if you will, although by my nature I am an introvert. I'm more sociable than my colleagues, and I like that networking environment, and I want to build off this. So you could, if you want to, change careers or change your major, right? And put yourself in the demographic that is more like you. Or alternatively, you can stay in the current demographic, but see yourself as unique within that demographic, which is what I did. That meant that I realized I've got a different type of skill set. I might not be as academically smart as these other guys, but I can bring on a different aspect, a different perspective, a different value than everyone else. And that's exactly what I did. I can separate myself from my competition much more easily within my science stream because I brought on this more sociable, business-minded perspective, this go-get-'em mindset, understanding the business, understanding the financials, but at the same time with that strong science background. Now, if you're a hiring company in the science field, there are plenty of companies out there that are very lucrative that will pay you very, very well. And they're choosing from a pool of candidates who are fairly unsociable or very bench, like the lab bench oriented. They're seeking out different types of candidates. They're seeking out people like you. So that's one way of looking at it. It's easier for you to separate yourself from those guys if you were to stay in your current stream, but then you still work on the skill sets that you like and these hobbies and interests that you are really moving towards. Stick with that, but see how you can combine the two moving forward. But from an academic standpoint, you're going to stick with the sciences. That's one avenue. The other avenue is to completely make the shift. Again, what happens is that it does dilute you. You will be a little bit different. It'll be a little bit difficult to separate yourself because the other people around you may be way better at you at doing the things that you like, whereas that skill set is diluted for you because you have a science background and you put a lot of your time and energy into that. So keep that in mind. All right. I apologize for the sirens. If you do hear it in the background, please bear with me. That's one of the disadvantages of living downtown here. There are definitely a lot more sirens here. But you kind of get used to it after a while. All right, so that's one aspect. The other thing is with regards to changing majors, paying more as a result. That's really up to you. If you want to do it, by all means, you have to do it, right? Like if you're going to regret not doing it, that's worse. So you can make the change if you want to. I think it's just really up to you what you want to do. And I don't think you really know what you want to do. I think you have these interests, and I'd recommend that you continue exploring them. But I don't know if you necessarily need to switch your major, right? Like if you're talking about finance, investment, financial technology, business, you don't need to go to school for that per se. And let's say you get a great job in a company, they could probably pay for your MBA down the road, and then that's how you complement your skill set. So to me, I feel like there's something to keep in mind. But the other thing is obviously your tuition. You have to factor that in. If you are really in need of student loans, I'd really recommend that you start figuring out how much this is going to cost you. And if possible, work part-time to pay that off so that you can pay that through school. Or finish your degree now, get a job, pay off your student loans, save up, and then go back to school for your business education. I really think that going into student loans or going to debt for education is a big mistake, especially when it comes to like a business degree, unless you get lucky. But I really don't think it's a good move. I think you can learn a lot outside of schooling just by doing and just by surrounding yourself with the right people and learning on your own. That's my personal opinion. In terms of the whole age thing, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're going to be graduating 24, 25, 30, 40 years. There are people that are much older in college, in universities, that graduate much later. It doesn't matter. You don't judge them. They're all adults. It doesn't matter. People change careers all the time. And as a result, they might need to increase their education. It's not high school. No one cares. So yeah, if you really want to do it, do it. And I wouldn't factor age into it at all. The one thing to keep in mind is if you are going to do it, try to keep your costs down. You do not need to go to a very expensive college or university. I don't care what everyone says. It's not true. People not gonna they don't really judge you based on that. They don't judge you based on where you went to school. A lot of people don't pay you for that either. So you're not really getting the value from a salary standpoint. So for the most part, if you are going to switch majors and extend your schooling, go for it, but keep your costs down, work part-time through your schooling, or save up later. All right, so lots of things for you to factor in. Okay, next question. Let's see here. This is from, networking. This is from Sarah. I am a third-year biology student at the University of Northern Iowa. I am working towards a career in marine science and oceanography. Okay. Most individuals in this profession have at least a master's degree, and I have always enjoyed school, so spending another few years is not a big inconvenience for me. Cool. What is holding me back is my lack of networking skills. Within any field, who you know carries a lot of weight. Okay, that was a fragmented sentence. I've been wanting to reach out to different grad programs, scientists, and laboratories I'm interested in for furthering my education or hoping to gain experience through internship opportunity. I've gotten very little response back. What I was hoping you could advise me on is the best way to approach people and get your inquiry, application, or name known by any given institution. Do you have any tips on how to format an email, what to include, not to include, how to be persuasive and unique to the reader, and general advice on how to be successful through networking? I'm grateful for this program you have created, which allows individuals like myself who are working towards making a difference like you have and need a little guidance. Thank you for taking the time to read my question, and I hope to hear from you. Thanks for reaching out. Yeah, how do you reach out to professors, laboratories, institutions, and see if there's any chance of them accepting you in a volunteer position or internship position? I did the same, and I reached out to a lot of different doctors, professors. Number one is what's within reach of your network. Are there professors that you can talk to right now that no other professors or labs that can hook you up with? That's number one. Reach out to all the professors in your network and see if they have any opportunities for you or any feedback for you on this question. Number one. Number two is see if they have any connections. I'm sure they know other professors in that network, so you can reach out for their contact and then name drop, right? Number three is you can definitely go like a shotgun approach. It's not super effective, but at least it gives you a lot bigger pool to choose from. So if there's a certain type of topic that you like to learn about within your marine science and oceanography studies, so let's say there's the latest research on a specific type of animal or trend. I'll give you an example for me. So when I was looking at labs, I was really interested in inflammatory diseases, in particular like dermatitis. So I was really focusing in on those types of professors and lab research and the developments recently in terms of finding a cure for that ailment. So what I did was I went through the various scientific journal databases and searched all of them, of all the research that I found really interesting, and you start seeing the same professors show up again and again. And it's not hard to Google search those guys and find their emails and then email them directly. And that's what I did. And because I had a passion for it, I understood the subject, I could speak to them to a certain level to a certain degree of commonality, and hopefully use that as a means to bond with them through email. Email communication isn't easy. I imagine a lot of these professors are very swamped, so their emails are filled with a whole bunch of unread messages, so yours can get lost pretty quickly. So it's a matter of making sure that they open the emails. So I think from my point of view, having a very strong, aesthetically eye-catching subject headline is very important. And then after that, just keep your email short and sweet. Make sure that they know exactly why you're reaching out to them. I think opening with a soft open, such as, do you have 5 minutes to chat? Would you be able to connect for 10 minutes over the phone? Something like that would be great. If they're within your local area, reaching out to them through for coffee would be good. Or if you can drive to their college or university and just say, hey, can I pop by during an office hour, would be great as well. I think having that face-to-face is important. If you're really, really gunning for a specific professor in your area, sit in one of their lectures and reach out to them after the lecture is done. I mean, that's if you're really going after a specific person and you really want to show that initiative. That's another way of reaching out. All right. So hopefully that helps. I think that gives you some ideas. I mean, this is very, very surface level at this point, only because I have very limited information for me to go on. But hopefully you can find some of these tips helpful. In terms of crafting your email or making it very persuasive, it's not really about that or making it unique. It's just about capturing their attention so that they actually open the email. A lot of people are going to be reaching out to them. So if you want to be unique, it's about getting that network connection through another professor. If you want to share some sort of personal story or passion about why you're reaching out to them, you can. But part of it is luck of the draw. So we can definitely go into more tips on how to be more persuasive. There are definitely other ways, but really it's about getting them to just open your email. Hence the tip around having a very eye-catching subject headline that looks very different, doesn't look spammy, but don't go with, hey, how's it going, or something like that. I would try something a little bit more creative, even something as simple as like asterisks on the subject headline, just to like catch the eye would be very important as well. All right. Okay. Next question. How are we doing for time? Okay, we are going through a lot here. Maybe I'll do one more. This subject is having trouble getting a job. My question is, how do I go about getting a job and the boss see me as a true hard worker and not passing me up? I'm looking for a career that will see past my learning disabilities and actually see the work I put in and the interest and eagerness to learn more. I've gone to a few interviews and did not get a call back. How do I get past this obstacle? I recently seen your video, how to get a job interview even if the company isn't hiring. Cool. It is where I found your website. Awesome. Well, thanks for dropping by and thanks for submitting your question. There's two parts to this. Number one, the first part of your question is around how does the boss see you as a hard worker and not passing you up? Well, that's a very different strategy and game plan when it comes to how to get promoted, how to get noticed in the workplace. That assumes that you already have a job. You've been working there for a while. There are promotions or at least positions posted, and no one talks to you about it. No one's putting your name on the list, or maybe you are applying for it, but no one's bringing you in for an interview. That is very different. That is a very different strategy versus being taken seriously during the job interview. So I'm not sure which scenario you want, but I will say that with regards to the first strategy, I do recommend that you check out my products and services page. I do have a course on how to get promoted, and I think that's really where you're going. That's like a $20 course. It's a pre-recorded course. It's very straightforward. It's a two-parter. I definitely recommend that you check that out. If you have any specific questions you want me to reach that you have for me, then submit your question to me on my website. But with regards to being taken seriously at the job interview, yeah, that is a good question. I think a lot of people aren't taken seriously because a lot of people don't prepare for it seriously. And this goes back to taking the time to record yourself, to prepare for different scenarios, to learn how to speak properly, how to really take the time and prep for it. It's not hard. I mean, it's just practice, and it might be really painful that first time. It might take you a long time. You might think you only need 5 minutes and it's going to take you half an hour. But it's okay. I think the first go might take you half an hour, and then the second go might take you 20 minutes, and the third go might take you 10 minutes. But it's important for you to practice. Like I said, go on Google, find interview questions, record yourself, and try to run through them on the first go, and you'll see how hard and how quickly you trip up on your words. But then as you do it over and over again, you get much better at speaking, and you get much better at thinking of the different scenarios to answer the questions. A lot of people don't do that, so then they look very unprepared. They do this. So let's say I get a question about when is the last time you did something outside your current job description? And then most candidates will be like, and they start looking up and they start thinking about it. Well, the last time I did something outside my job description was when my professor or my boss asked me to do this project that was off hours. And so I volunteered for it. And it did really, really, it took me a lot of time outside of my work hours. So I put the time into it. And but overall, it went very well, and my boss really liked it. That's exactly how some people answer their interview questions. It is that generic, it is that stuttery, it is that painful. And then that demonstrates to the interviewers that you didn't prepare for it. And if you did, you're not speaking too well. So if you have these learning disabilities, or if you just are a bad interviewer, you have to put in the extra time and effort to compensate for that, and really work extra hard and practice more so than you ever thought you needed to in order to be taken seriously in the interview. You should know exactly what you want to say, and you can say it for the most part fairly smoothly and assertively and with confidence. And at the same time, you can speak at a very common pace, a very, very normal pace. All right. My very last question, I got a few more minutes left. My very last question, this is regarding the questions on LinkedIn. And a lot of people came to me because they found that regulatory affairs video. And a lot of people are thinking about career changes. And they're asking me, hey, should I get my RAPS, which is like a regulatory affairs certification? It's like a course you can take in school about different regulations. And it gives you that certification. Hopefully that provides a lot more credentials to you. It depends on the situation. It depends on the industry, of course. And I think a lot of people think that as soon, oh, hold on. That's my coffee machine in the background. Bear with me for a couple seconds. Okay, so a lot of people assume that as soon as they get the education, that they will get a job. It is not that simple. That's the truth. So as long as you guys keep that in mind, of course, getting the education will be helpful. If you are doing a career change and you're going from sales to regulatory affairs, absolutely, you want to look at getting the education. But before you do, if you are transitioning within the same industry or within the same company, and you're thinking, this whole sales thing isn't working for me, I want to get into regulatory affairs, see if you can do that without the education piece. See if you can make that transition laterally within your company through the normal networking ways. Talk to the regulatory affairs manager, talk to the operations manager, talk to the VPs that oversee that department, talk to your HR department, get to know those people, get to network with them on a regular basis, even though you might not interact with them on a business side, on the day-to-day. Get to know those guys. Once they know you, they like you, they'll be more inclined to open their doors to you and welcome you into their department should an opportunity open up. That is probably way easier, and they can learn based on experience after that than getting the education. So my first advice before going through the whole RAPS certification is to see if you can make a lateral transition, or even taking a step down, but making an entry-level lateral position move within your company. I think that's the best way to do it. And then you can put that on your resume, and then you can make your transition and more solid with a regulatory affairs stream. So that's my quick tip, guys. I think we went through a lot. Hopefully, you guys will find this information useful. We talked about a variety of things. I only hammered like 4 or 5 of these questions. I've got way more to tackle. I thought I would blast through these really quickly, but this is already coming up to 50 minutes or so into the Q&A. So, guys, I will leave it there. I hope you enjoyed this. I will put timestamps on the different topics here for you, and I hope you enjoyed it. Guys, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.